So here's what we have for today's video. The 2025 new generation Nissan Murano. And on this side, for the first time ever in North America, we've got the Toyota Crown Signia. And today, we're going to compare these two. Let's talk first about the difference in design between these two vehicles. We've got the Murano on this side, which in some ways, a lot of people have said that this looks a bit like an EV. It's very sci-fi design. First thing you notice is this massive grille with the badge in the front. And then we've got the wings for the daylight running light, which they turn off when you use the indicator. Only the top side is the indicator. The Toyota has been called the poor man's Ferrari Purosangue, which I really don't see that much, but I do see the front end, especially this portion over here reminds me a bit of the Ferrari Purosangue. And then we've got the glossy finish at the bottom, but unlike the Nissan Murano, which has the headlight at the top, this one has it in reverse. Then we've got the daylight skinny at the top. Moving on to the side profile of the Murano. The first thing you notice with this is that it doesn't have the standard design of an SUV. In fact, it looks a bit like a crossover coupe all in one. But the wheels in this case, if you come closely, they're very differently designed compared to the one in the Crown. You've got the plastic part over here and then the aluminum part on this side. And that kind of explains why some people think this is an EV. The Toyota is very different to what you'd call an SUV. This thing has a flat top all the way. I would call this a station wagon in some ways, or even better, I could call this a shooting brake design because it's kind of like that. He doesn't know what he wants to be. He wants to be an SUV or a luxury wagon or estate, whatever you call it. It's a very different design, which in some ways could be a positive thing. Moving on to the back of the Nissan Murano. Now, it's pretty interesting, the entire design at the back, and let me show you some design cues. First of all, the tail light. If you look carefully, it starts very bright and then it fades away all the way to the middle where you have the badge. And it has the button to open the tailgate here, not at the bottom, but right in there. Next thing you notice, there's no actual wiper in here. That to me is the perfect touch because that's what you want in a premium luxury vehicle. It's hidden at the top where the brake light is. The Toyota Crown Signia on this side doesn't scream much luxury or cool design. It's pretty Toyota in many ways. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it doesn't have the lines, the design spirit that the Murano has. Like for example, you've got this wiper here, which could have easily been hidden in there. That would have been the best solution. But then you move on further down, you've got the tail lights, which have this bar that goes across with a 3D effect. Nothing crazy, just pretty standard. And compared to the Nissan Murano, this has a much smaller rear tailgate. It's not as large, which brings me to the next point, space. Behind the second row, the Murano offers about 32.1 cubic feet of space, which you can tell right away, it's pretty large. And then if you fold the second row, you get about 67 cubic feet of space. You can actually fold the seats right in here like that. There's one more button onto this side. And then, look at that. You can actually go camping with this thing. It's such a great option. Now, next thing is that this bad boy, if you come closer, doesn't come with spare tire, which is unfortunate because it's supposed to be a premium vehicle, but I'm assuming they don't want you to get your hands dirty, so they just give you the sealant and an air pump, so that way you can make use of that, or call the towing company to fix your tires. Now, on this side, the Toyota Crown doesn't offer a lot of space. In fact, behind the second row, this only offers about 25.8 cubic feet of space. And the reason is very simple, because it doesn't have the best design for space. Like the tailgate is small. In fact, you can see right here in my head, it's a shrunk down vehicle. That's the style of it. It's not like a proper SUV. But having said that, this one does come with a divider with this package, which is quite nice. You can extend this. And if you want to fold the seats over here, this is where the Crown wins. You've got buttons on each side. So you pull those levers and here you go. And check this out. So this is where the Toyota Crown wins. This gives you about 68.5 cubic feet of space. That one gives you 67. So you get more space overall with the second row folded in the Crown. But for day-to-day use in the Murano, you get more space behind the second row. Another thing I notice is, this is pretty cool. Let me show you something. This thing has, what is it, a table? Oh, I see what they did. See? Okay, that's pretty smart. So if you don't want things to like slide back and forth, you can put this thing like a divider and protects the seats in the front. And then bang, you close it. Let's jump into the second row. We'll start first with the Crown Signia. This is pretty shocking. I expected the second row to be much smaller because this thing looks like squashed. It's very small and it's very flat, but it's not. I'm actually pretty comfortable here. I could be on a nice road trip and the seat in the front is set as if I was the driver. I gotta say, I'm shocked. Tech features, we've got heated seats, the buttons located in the door. Over here, there is a tweeter at the top. There's this actual speaker at the bottom of the door panel. The interior, you wouldn't say that it feels like luxurious, but it's okay. We've got this leather interior, or it could be a vegan leather interior, which is quite nice with perforated. We've got two USB-C ports, some air vents, and a panoramic roof all the way across. And that's about it. But space overall, it's pretty comfortable. Into the Nissan Murano. Here we go. Now, first thing you notice when you jump in the Murano is that there's so much more space. It's so much more larger, even like headroom. Leg room seems like about the same. Like I'm 6'2". But that's the first thing you notice. Now, in terms of interior, we've got the leather perforated. This is sort of like a two-tone with this interior design, which I kind of like it. It looks cool. Next thing is that in this one, you get sunshades on both sides so that you don't get a lot of that brightness, especially if you have kids. That comes in real handy. I've been there before. In terms of the speakers, this has no tweeters at the top. There's only a speaker at the bottom. And then we've got tech features. Heated seats buttons are located in the middle with 3 levels, and we've got 2 USB-C ports and the air vents. And that's about it. Panoramic roof, all the way across, massive. But overall, this thing feels larger because it's the way it is designed. Now, let's jump in the front and let's start first with the Toyota. When you jump inside the Crown Signia, the first thing you realize is that this is not like your Camry or your RAV4. In fact, it's very much like a Lexus. It's got a nice touch, like this sort of copper style finish all the way around. The build quality is quite nice. The steering feels good. We've got a shifter in the center. But let's get into the details and let's start it up. Now, first thing you notice with this is that you've got the screen on the sides and you've got the screen on this side, but there's no actual heads-up display with this package. Moving on to the steering wheel, it's nice and grippy. You've got the stitching all around, but then you've got your buttons, which are easy access. You can control the cruise control on this side, and then we've got the volume, control the menu, and so on. Now, moving on to the infotainment display on this side. It is touch screen. It has built-in navigation system in it. It does have a 360 camera, but it also has sort of like a underbody visibility. You can also wash the rear camera in case if you get it to go off-roading. You can use that button over there. You can also do this. But when you move forward, when you move into reverse, it can also show the underbody parts in case if you go off-roading, so it gives you better visibility underneath the vehicle. Got your energy flow because it is hybrid, so it shows you the battery, where it is located, and it's got the electric motors, vehicle alerts, trip information. Let's see what's the best we have gotten. 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's not that bad. That's pretty good for this size vehicle. We have these buttons, which I prefer that. I like the fact that it does have buttons. There's for heated seats, ventilated seats. You can control the climate unit, heated steering wheel as well. You can control all the levels. And There's a wireless charging pad. You can slide your phone right in there. It's nicely hidden. You get some space behind here. There are 2 USB-C ports in there. And then in the middle, we've got 2 cup holders with some extra space for your key. You also have driving modes that you can control from. Now, one thing I appreciate is this entire layout. It's quite nice. Next thing I like about this vehicle is this, the armrest. You see, a typical armrest would open from this side, but this one opens on both sides. Another typical armrest would open up. A feature that I would love for every vehicle to have, it's this, a rear camera. And the reason is because this here offers the best visibility, especially if you have people behind you in the second row. That visibility goes down because now you have 3 people sitting there. This, every vehicle should have this rear view mirror camera. Okay, let's jump into the Nissan. The first thing is, when you jump inside the Nissan Murano compared to the Crown Signia, is the fact that this is much larger on the inside. The interior of the Murano, once you jump in, there's a bit of that EV style and a bit of that Infinity and a bit of luxury mixed into one, which I kind of like because of the little designs, like the faded weight dashboard, the quilted seats as well, which are quite nice, the stitching. Let me show you how this thing starts and all the features that I love in this vehicle. The first thing to point out is the fact that the Nissan comes with a power steering column, which adds to that entire experience, and it goes pretty back. The design that you've seen here is very much like the one in the Aria, which is pretty cool. It doesn't have any physical buttons on the steering wheel. They're kind of like touch. Smart design, it's this little button that you've seen here. It matches the position of your thumb, up and down. So it's not straight to make it annoying. They actually made it this way, which I think is a smart design. And you can control the actual cluster or the infotainment if you don't want it to use touchscreen. You don't even have to connect your phone, because once you log in here, you'll be able, which you can do, you can control like all the previous addresses that you have been into it. You can go into Apple CarPlay, which this one comes with. It does have Google Assist in this case, and it's repeating all my words. And then we've got interior lighting in this case, ambient lighting, which I don't believe the Toyota offers. In terms of the cameras, we've got 360 camera here with different views. You can switch from like back, sides, or full 360, as you can see. Your heated seats in here, in this case, and the climate units. You can do rear or front. So you can turn off and turn on the seats in the back, something you didn't get with the Toyota. The infotainment, it's quite nice, easy to use and pretty quick. It's an Android-based infotainment display. Moving further down, we've got this massive button over here for the volume. You can also turn it off and turn it on. You can adjust the volume with that scroll button. And then underneath that, we've got the Murano badge, which is a nice touch. Further down, you've got your button to start the vehicle, but these ones are for the actual, well, that's the climate units. Like, this is something that some people might not like. I find this pretty cool that is integrated into the actual wood piece in here. And then further down, we've got a wireless charging pad with 2 USB-C ports. Now, unlike the Toyota, which has a shift knob, this one has a piano style, so you can use park, reverse, drive, and manual. And you do have a couple of buttons here to control the camera and the auto start-stop. On top of that, we've got the driving mode, sport, standards, and eco. 2 cup holders, some extra space in there, and your standard armrest, which is not the same as a Toyota. You can fold and unfold on the other side. The Toyota Crown Signia uses a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine, and it's got 3 electric motors, makes 243 brake horsepower combined. What it's like to actually spend a full day with this thing, or a full week in that matter, you don't feel like you're driving the same SUV concept that you might have in your mind. It actually feels more like a sedan. Like, I've driven the standard Crown and it's not far off. In terms of the sitting position, you're not sitting too high, not too low, just enough. You put your foot down, it moves, but it's still a CVT, so it just high revs. The Nissan Murano uses a 2-liter VC turbocharged inline-4 engine, and it makes 241 brake horsepower and 216 pound-feet of torque. The idea behind this engine is to have a bit of fuel efficiency, but also, well, let's say, performance. This thing pulls. Now, it is all-wheel drive, but it's mostly front-wheel biased compared to the one in the Crown, which is electric power torque, essentially. And the power is delivered differently in each wheel. This one, it's a bit more front-wheel drive. And you notice that when you put your foot down, suspension system is pretty standard, although it does feel like a bit of an air ride. It's very soft compared to the one in the Crown. Feels like one of those very comfortable mattresses when you're driving this thing. The ride is not as harsh, it's smooth, it just kind of like glides through. The steering on this thing, it's pretty soft. Brakes are just as good. But around the corner, you feel a little bit of that body roll because this is designed very much like an SUV. Next thing we want to talk about is pricing. Well, the Nissan Murano in Canada is actually cheaper compared to the US. So the Murano Platinum, which is the top trim that you see in here, you're looking at about $54,000. Meanwhile, the Crown Signia Limited, which is a top trim for Canada, it's about $57,000. Meanwhile, in the US, the fully loaded Murano, you're looking at about $51,000. The Crown Signia Limited fully loaded would be about $50,000. So, which one is the best out of the two? On one hand, we have the Nissan Murano Platinum, which is a comfy cruiser that sticks to the traditional SUV formula: elevated ride height, soft suspension system, luxurious interior, and very familiar driving dynamics. Perfect for those who want cushy without quirky. On the other hand, we have the Toyota Crown Signia Limited. Refined, great ride, it has a hybrid system that gives you great fuel efficiency. It doesn't scream Lexus out loud, but in some ways it's within the same price range of a Lexus RX. But it's for buyers who want something premium and unique, but they want to admit that they actually love cars. Personally, I would go with the Nissan Murano Platinum. I love the interior, I love the space overall, especially behind the second row. I like how it looks on the outside, but mostly I love the interior and the power delivery. In terms of fuel efficiency, it all comes down to how you drive.